The UK has some of the strictest gun laws in the world. Automatic weapons and most handguns are outright banned, and other firearms such as shotguns require a licence and are tightly regulated. As a result of this ban, firearms offences make up only a tiny minority of violent crimes. Only in Northern Ireland are you allowed to own a gun for self-defence. The same cannot be said for the US, which has more guns than any other country in the world, with an estimated total of 393.3 million firearms. The UK, in comparison, has only 3.2 million. When adjusting those numbers per capita, it comes out at 4.64 guns per 100 people in the UK, against just over 120 per 100 people in the US. It is difficult to say exactly how many mass shootings take place, because there is no strict legal definition of what constitutes a mass shooting. But the Gun Violence Archive in the US, which tracks firearm-related data, uses the criteria of any shooting which was carried out by a lone gunman, occurred in a public place, and shot and injured 4 or more people. Since 1982, 129 such shootings have taken place in the US, compared to just 4 in the UK's entire history, when looking at school shootings that took place outside of the context of war, suicide, or as a result of police action. Since 1980, there have been 516 school shootings, resulting in 478 deaths. In that same time period, the UK had a single school shooting, killing 16 students aged between 4 and 5 and 1 teacher. The UK has had some form of firearm legislation since 1824, with the most relevant being the passing of a 1903 law which regulated the sale of handguns. In 1920, new laws were passed, requiring a licence for the purchase of most firearms, with new legislation requiring licences for shotguns in 1937. These laws were consolidated into a single law under the 1968 Firearms Act. It wasn't until 1988 that the government began to tighten gun laws to limit public ownership, in response to a mass shooting that took place in 1987. The Hungerford massacre resulted in the deaths of 17 people, when 27-year-old Michael Ryan opened fire with a pistol and 2 legally owned semi-automatic rifles. The Firearms Act of 1988 made it illegal to own semi-automatic rifles, most shotguns, and military weapons which fired explosive ammunition. These laws were tightened further following the 1996 massacre in the small Scottish town of Dunblane, when 43-year-old former Scout leader Thomas Hamilton burst into the gymnasium of a primary school with 4 legally owned handguns and opened fire. Following public outcry over the crime and a large media campaign, the UK passed 2 pieces of firearms legislation that effectively banned the ownership of all handguns. 162,000 pistols and 700 tons of ammunition were handed into police as a result of the ban. Since 1997, further legislation has been passed, limiting who can own a rifle, as well as limiting the sale of air-powered weapons and imitation firearms. The UK has had 2 mass shootings in the years since the Dunblane massacre: the Cumbria shooting in 2010, which killed 13 people including the gunman, and the Plymouth shooting in 2021, where the gunman killed 5 people before turning the gun on himself. But overall gun violence remains among the lowest in the world.